Last week we discussed a radical leftist journalist who justified the murder of a health insurance CEO. Former Washington Post journalist Taylor Lorenz made headlines around the world for saying, "People wonder why we want these executives dead." But since then, the alleged killer, Luigi Mangione, has been caught. So surely now that there is a face to the crime, reporters are starting to treat it for what it is: murder.
Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Seriously?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Remember when the left used to be about compassion and nuance? Well, when given a chance to walk back her comments about feeling joy, Lorenz doubled down. Now watch the eyes in this clip. They give a whole new meaning to the word crazy.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the system.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving health care from people like the CEO.
Taylor Lorenz, seemingly advocating for murder as a solution to societal issues, came at an awkward time for our ABC here in Australia. Remember a few weeks ago when their dopey chair, Kim Williams, attacked podcaster Joe Rogan as a repulsive extremist?
I personally find it deeply repulsive. And to think that someone has such remarkable power in the United States is something that I look at in disbelief.
The ABC sought to cover that story in a podcast, and they decided to lean on the expertise of old crazy eyes Taylor Lorenz to inform viewers, at the taxpayer's expense of course, why Joe Rogan was so dangerous.
I mean, look, I do think that he's right that Joe Rogan has tapped into something. And I do think it's fair to say at this point that he does prey on people's vulnerabilities and sort of fear. Joe Rogan has pushed a lot of sort of extreme rhetoric, and a lot of the episodes of his show are built around sort of fomenting fears. He's pushed a lot of dangerous conspiracy theories about immigrants and other things. And then he also just, has a lot of kind of kooky people on his show, like putting forward conspiracy theories about aliens and stuff like that.
How humiliating for the ABC. The ABC's tech expert in this case says that Joe Rogan is dangerous and spreading fear. And then she went on to say she felt joy when a man was gunned down in the street. Now, this is why people are losing trust in legacy media, and this is why the ABC is quickly making itself irrelevant. Well, joining me on the panel this week is Sky News contributor James Bolt and Louise Roberts. Louise, let's start with you. Obviously, and I don't want to gloss over the fact that America has this horrific problem in their healthcare industry. Surely the solution is to tackle that legislatively with debate. When we got these supposedly serious journalists taking this quite reprehensible position, what are your thoughts?
Well, Taylor goes after Joe Rogan, saying that he's spreading conspiracy theories and dangerous messages, but he's not going out in the street and saying it's okay for a CEO of a healthcare company to be gunned down because it somehow vindicates the trauma of thousands of Americans who maybe have not got their health claims through.
As if it would impact the industry, as if he's not going to be replaced tomorrow by somebody else, as if it would have any kind of impact whatsoever.
That's right, and Piers absolutely skewers her brilliantly because this man was a father and he was a husband and he ran a company. So if you don't agree with the way the company deals with healthcare, the solution is not to, murder him in the street, but for her to vindicate that and say that that's somehow a great message and Americans support it, which they clearly don't. Americans were horrified by what she said and they were horrified by what happened to the CEO.
Yeah, completely agree. And the other element to this is our taxpayer dollars have gone to getting this person propping her up as some kind of a tech expert. And the irony of this is that she says that Joe Rogan is dangerous.
Yeah, so let me tell you who Taylor Lorenz is, because there's probably a lot of people watching that have thankfully never heard of her, and now we've had to break the ice. So she had already left the Washington Post by the time this interview aired, and she has also this month lost her podcast with Vox. She doesn't have a masthead to her name, so clearly she's not a big mover and shaker in the industry. And if we go back a couple of years, she's also the woman that doxed the Libs of TikTok Libs a TikTok Twitter account creator. She rocked up at her house, says the creator, knocked on her door and said, I've got some questions to ask. Now, she says that Joe Rogan foments fear. What could be more fearful than if you're an anonymous account user, a journalist knocking at your door and saying, where's some questions? So I'll take my lectures on journalism standards.
She walks around with a mask when there's no pandemic on because she's so terrified of getting a cold.
Yes.
There's nothing more fear.
It does strike that the ABC journalist that booked them was more interested in just getting a yes and just carrying on rather than thinking of themselves, did I get someone good to talk about this?
Well, what they're saying is here's some very vocal left-wing person to talk about this evil conservative podcast. By the way, Joe Rogan isn't even, an orthodox conservative podcast. He started off on the left. He endorsed Bernie Sanders.
Former comedian, yes.
He's someone that was driven to endorsing Trump because of this absurdity that we're seeing playing out in the media.
He spent hours and hours interviewing him, and that was one of the key factors, as we know, apart from obviously what happened when Trump was shot, in actually getting him back into power, getting him back into the White House. People listened to the nuanced interviewing that Joe Rogan did with Trump and thought, actually, I'm going to vote for this guy.
That's why Kim Williams, who's supposed to be the head of a media organisation, him not understanding that point, I don't see how he's fit. I think he's far too dated to be running an organisation. If he doesn't understand that point, he doesn't understand why people are interested in Joe Rogan. But let's move on, because Elon Musk has hit out at the CEO of Axios Media, who had a meltdown a few weeks ago, angry about the rise of citizen journalism. Now, if you missed the comments, have a listen.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
The clip was lapped up by MSNBC's Morning Joe, which gave it a round of applause.
Come on, slow clap, everybody. Whoa. First of all, I've got to say, extraordinary content. It needed to be said.
Yeah.
It continues to need to be said. When all of the garbage is flying around on social media, lying about reporters, lying about the hard work they do, lying about the hard work editors do, lying about everything up and down, about not only their alternative set of facts, but alternative set of facts about what people like you do. Or if social media, people lying every day, every hour, every minute about the news. What you do matters.
If you say it confidently enough, maybe it becomes true. But Musk responded to that video this week saying, you are the media now, they are the past. Let's bring the panel back in to discuss. I mean, Louise, Musk obviously has made his position with the legacy media very clear.
Oh, absolutely.
He's also a bit of a troll, in good fun and good jest.
He likes to agitate, yes.
But the thing is, it works. So this Axios CEO going up there and having a temper tantrum, and put Joe Scarborough, the host of Morning Joe, and his little tantrum to one side.
And why?
How embarrassing to let the trolling impact you. When you're a professional boss, when you're a CEO and you're swearing on stage and having a meltdown about citizen journalism.
This is where maybe an older subset of trained journalists really present themselves as dinosaurs and not willing to adapt to the new media and the way people are consuming media. I mean, citizen journalism is fantastic. User-generated content, whatever you like to call it. It really resonates with the community. People, that's how they communicate with each other.
A lot of reporters are also quoting things that are said on X. You know, there is that reverse paradigm as well, where his reporters, I bet if you go to their website, you can find a lot of instances of content which has been generated on that platform by these citizen journalists.
By members of the public. What's wrong with that? And certainly during the pandemic, we found it super useful where people were swapping information with each other globally about how coronavirus was affecting us. So I think that panel should be embracing it and getting citizen journalists on their show rather than shooting them down and saying, oh, woe betide us, our industry is in decline.
Completely agree. I mean, more communication between people, the better. But what do you think of this story?
What James Van der Heijst, the Axios guy you played, he said journalism isn't about having 300 words of cleverness and an opinion. That is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it's been for 600 years.
I thought it was a 10-word headline.
Yeah, like, we don't pick up anvils and go to war. Like, we just sit there and we come up with words of cleverness. And the irony of MSNBC going on a rant saying what we do matters while they hemorrhage viewers every single show is hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit in that, which is like, I think we still matter. I think there's a little bit of that, which is, please, do we still matter?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on, because Time magazine has a new Person of the Year. President Donald Trump graces the cover for the second time, and they write, for 97 years, the editors of Time have been picking the Person of the Year, the individual who, for better or for worse, did the most to shape the world. And the headlines over the past 12 months. In many years, that choice is a difficult one. In 2024, it was not. It definitely was not a difficult choice in this situation.
Yes.
His political comeback, if you loathe him, if you love him, it was incredible the way that he was able to galvanise a country around his policies and his position when you had all of these institutions trying to tear him down. How could he not be the most impactful person?
I agree, and it was great to see the editor of Time, Sam Jacobs, actually make that point, that there was no other choice, and the story of redemption and victory is fabulous. And I thought there was a really nice piece in that where he talked about Trump being almost wistful because he's won the fight. So what's next for Trump? Because he's very comfortable as a pugilist. He's very comfortable taking things on. As we know, when he was shot and he said, fight, 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 that's been his mantra since then, make America great again. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from that. But I thought it was a great piece. I'm very relieved they didn't stitch him up. I'm glad they actually made him out to be
It was a rare case of balance, right?
It was, yes.
James, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know Trump's already won in 2016, but does it seem that there's less anger at the Trump victory from the left than there was in 2016? Less outpouring. I haven't seen as many people threaten to move to Canada. I haven't seen plans for a women's march on Washington as we did in 2016.
Well, the outrage doesn't match the pre-election rhetoric, which is really weird because it shows that, well, you must have lied.
Yes.
You lying now, or did you lie then?
If you genuinely thought you had just lost to Hitler, you wouldn't be taking it as lying down as the left are. And so
they knew all along.
They knew, but also are they going like, hang on, this kind of clown show, cartoonish outrage at every single step of the way. People switch off. Like, it's good for the coastal elites and it's good at dinner parties, and I told Trump this and I tweeted out that. But for the people in, Wisconsin, Michigan, Philadelphia, the places you need to win, they just zone out and they go, actually, the other guy, it seems more fun.
Well said.